I'm Aurora, a holistic nutritionist, wellness nerd, and you are listening to Her Health, a podcast where we get real about hormones, healing, and how to feel good in your skin. I'm here to cut through the wellness noise and give you grounded, honest conversations. Whether you're looking for sisterly advice or science-backed tips, I've got you. So take a deep breath, pour yourself a drink, and let's dive in. Welcome back to the pod. I am Aurora, your host, and today we are diving into hormonal imbalances. What drives hormonal imbalances? Why up to 80% of women experience hormonal imbalances at some point in their lives? What's behind PCOS, endometriosis, how we can manage symptoms or heal hormonal imbalances? And I, of course, am going to go into my own story of how birth control affected me when I came off, what happened, and how that led me to study nutrition, women's hormones, and then help other people. So let's get into it. Briefly, I'll go into my own story. When I was 13 years old, I was put on hormonal birth control. I started the pill Yaz, which I'm sure a lot of people were on. In those times, we did not talk about the root causes of intense cramps, acne, irregular periods, anything like that. And that's why I was put on hormonal birth control. At the time, it was like, okay, hormonal birth control balances your hormones, eliminates all of these problems. It's going to be great for your acne, great for your skin. So why not be on it? So at the age of 27, 14 years later, I decided to come off of hormonal birth control because my intuition told me that if I don't get off right now, something permanent is going to happen to my body and I might not be able to have kids or heal from it. Now, I don't mess with my intuition. When my intuition tells me something, I listen. It has gotten me very far in life. I anyway was thinking to get off at some point. I was getting married the next year, so I was thinking, okay, maybe if we want to try to have a family, it'll be good to come off now anyways and start balancing my hormones and preparing. I had a zero idea what I was in for when I came off. At that time, I was studying to be a holistic nutritionist, but I didn't dive into women's hormones or women's health yet. I was in shock about what happened. I got my first period. It wasn't a real period. My body was still detoxing those synthetic hormones. It wasn't producing their own yet. So I got a period, but we didn't really know what was going on with my hormones or my cycle yet. After the first one, I didn't get my period for about 2 or 3 months. I started getting insane acne, and when I did get my period, I got intense mood swings, insane cramps. My breasts were so sore, and it felt like my body was working against me. I could just feel how much imbalance and inflammation was going on in my body. And mind you, I was always eating healthy and working out, but I had no idea how much the pill had affected me. We're not going to go into the pill or hormonal birth control too much in this episode. I'm going to create another episode just on that. But briefly, hormonal birth control robs our body off of nutrients, obviously shuts down our own hormone production because we are consuming now these synthetic hormones. So our own endocrine system and our hormones don't need to do anything. It creates gut imbalance, so it almost works like an antibiotic, messing up our gut microbiome balance. It also changes our brain chemistry and so much more. So when I came off, my body was going through it. So all of this led me to study women's hormones, women's nutrition, heal myself, and then help other people. This episode will be amazing for you if you're coming off of birth control or just trying to heal your hormones or don't know what's going on with your body. We are gonna talk about everything hormone health. So besides hormonal birth control and medications, what is driving women's hormone imbalances so that 80% of us are experiencing hormonal imbalances, which is an insane number compared to about 20% of men? Having hormonal imbalances doesn't always mean that you have PCOS or endometriosis. It can just mean that you have too little or too much of certain hormones. Even small variations and changes in the levels can have huge effect on our health because hormones affect everything. This is why talking about it is so important. They affect our mood, metabolism, energy, digestion, libido, skin, and so much more. So one of the first reasons is that us women, we go through a 24-hour hormonal cycle, but also a 28-day hormonal cycle. Men only have the 24-hour hormonal cycle, which makes it easier for them and their hormones to stay balanced. They're not as easily affected. But since we have two hormonal clocks, we are affected easier. Our progesterone levels and estrogen levels are rising and falling basically every single week, sometimes every day. This triggers ovulation in the body, menstruation in the body. This also affects our mood and our energy and our metabolism. Like I said, all of our hormones are connected. Our estrogen is connected to serotonin, our feel-good hormone. So when our estrogen is rising and falling, our mood can also be rising and falling. Not only do we have the 24-hour and 28-day cycle, but we also go through other stages in life, not everybody, but pregnancy and postpartum and menopause. Men don't go through that. Men don't even have a menopause, which makes our health very, very simple. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. It's not simple at all. And that's why actually women's health is not studied as much, because we are deemed too complicated. And most studies that are done on diets and intermittent fasting and all these things are done on men and women in their menopause years, because it's much easier to track their hormones and track what's going on with their body and how it affects us, rather than women in their reproductive years. So a lot more research is needed for women's health in general. Another huge reason is chronic stress, and we don't talk about enough, truly, because there's still that hustle and bustle culture. There's still that let me do a HIIT workout and drink coffee and intermittent fast until 2 p.m. kind of mindset going on. And that was me too a few years ago. So I'm not shaming anybody who does that, just something that we should be aware of and think about, especially if our hormones are out of balance and we're super stressed out and have anxiety. Modern life is just stressful in general. This world of 9 to 5 was not created for women and women's health in mind. We're under constant pressure from work, from school, from family, from over-exercising, under-exercising, and our bodies are producing excess cortisol, which is our stress hormone. Now, our stress hormone can really steal the attention from other hormones in the body and take over. Add caffeine consumption to that, especially caffeine early in the morning on an empty stomach, and then a HIIT workout. Girl, you got yourself some issues. No judgment, because I used to intermittent fast and drink coffee on an empty stomach. And let me just say, those made my stress and anxiety and hormonal imbalances way worse than I thought. I actually didn't think that they were a problem at all until I realized that they were. And when I stopped, I really saw the difference. So over time, chronic stress wreaks havoc on our other hormones. And it's actually one of the biggest root causes of any of our hormonal issues. Let's talk about how nutrition plays a role. Our food choices affect our health and our hormones. Every food that we eat triggers a response in our body, a response of how our body should be acting and reacting. Think about it almost like you're coding or sending a message to someone of what to do. That message that you send creates a reaction, and it's going to tell our body what to do and how to act. So a diet that is high in refined sugars, ultra-processed foods can cause blood sugar spikes and crashes, and chronically high insulin levels can trigger our body to produce more androgen hormones like testosterone, and therefore trigger things like PCOS and hormonal acne. Now, on the flip side, restrictive eating and low-fat diets can create nutrient deficiencies in the body. The building blocks of our body are fats, cholesterol, proteins, amino acids, all those things. And if we are depriving our body off of that, our body doesn't have enough of those raw materials to create enough estrogen, progesterone, etc. Stress can also rob our body off of nutrients. So those go hand in hand. And also what we eat can create more stress on the body. See how everything's connected? Something that often also flies under the radar are environmental toxins and endocrine disruptors in them. Unfortunately, our everyday environment is full of chemicals that can disrupt our hormones. They are found in everything from plastic to water to air to the products that we use on our skin. So our skincare, makeup, hair care, synthetic fragrances in candles, home and room sprays, cleaning products, laundry detergents, all the things. Now, when we are exposed to these things, they are absorbed into our body, and our body has to find a way to deal with it and figure out what to do with it. Most common endocrine disruptors are synthetic fragrances, phthalates, and parabens. What these endocrine disruptors do is that they can either mimic our natural hormones, especially estrogen in the body, create estrogen dominance in the body, or they can block our natural hormone production. And over time, exposing ourselves to these chemicals for years and years and years can really affect our hormones, create hormonal imbalances, fertility issues, thyroid problems, hormone-driven conditions, and even early puberty in kids and teens. In fact, these can be big triggers behind endometriosis and PCOS especially. Some research have found that women with PCOS or endometriosis have higher levels of those environmental toxins in their body. Bottom line, our modern life is full of endocrine disruptors, and that's why clean products and clean eating is important. Genetics also play a role. It's not to say that if your mom or grandma had endo or PCOS that you'll get it, but you have a higher likelihood of being diagnosed with PCOS and endo. So all of these together create the perfect storm and the perfect environment for hormonal imbalances. So if you look at it, it's really not a surprise that 4 out of 5 women experience hormonal imbalances and experience things like PMS, irregular periods, acne, fatigue, mood swings, insomnia, weight changes, low libido, brain fog, infertility, and so much more. And I hate the fact that hormone imbalance symptoms are so normalized. Yes, we are in this together. Yes, 80% of us experience these symptoms. But what we need to remember is that hormonal imbalances are not a necessary part of being a woman. We all don't have to go through this and live like this, and it's largely due to our lifestyles and our environment. Before we go into natural hormone healing, let's talk about PCOS and endo a little bit more. So we talked about how your gene setup can have an effect on if you develop PCOS or endo. But what other things do we know that drive both PCOS and endo? PCOS is extremely common. It's estimated about 10 to 15% of women have PCOS, but many go undiagnosed for super long. So that number could even be higher. If you're not familiar, PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome, and the hallmark of PCOS is excess androgen hormones, which are male hormones, for example, testosterone. Now, those take over and create an imbalance with the female hormones. We all produce testosterone and androgen hormones as well, but usually just in smaller amounts. Because the ovaries are producing those androgen hormones, this can lead to irregular periods, delayed ovulation, unwanted hair on the face, acne, weight gain, and fertility issues. Some of the biggest drivers behind PCOS is insulin resistance and blood sugar imbalances, meaning the body doesn't respond well to insulin. So the pancreas pumps out more insulin to compensate for that, and now these high insulin levels in turn stimulate the ovaries to produce more androgen hormones, which leads to more hormonal imbalances. Interestingly, women with PCOS often also have low-grade chronic inflammation. So while inflammation may not cause PCOS on its own, it does contribute to insulin resistance and ovarian dysfunction. So inflammatory diets and toxins can further this inflammation, which can aggravate PCOS. PCOS is a mainly metabolic, driven by this vicious cycle of hormone imbalance, inflammation, and excess androgen hormones. The good news is that with the right approach, PCOS is very manageable. You can restore your cycles, your ovulation, and fertility. And we'll talk about the solutions more in a little bit. Now, endometriosis is a completely different beast. Endometriosis or endo is also very common nowadays. About 1 in 10 women have endometriosis. If you're not familiar with endo, it is a condition where tissue similar to the uterine lining grows outside of the uterus. So they can grow on ovaries, on the fallopian tubes, even on the bladder and other organs. These tissues respond to the cycle. So when you're having your period, these tissues also bleed, but they have nowhere to go, which causes inflammation, excruciating pain, and scar tissue. Now, to any endo warriors listening, I am with you. I am so sorry that you deal with this. This is like one of the most painful things that you can deal with as a woman. You truly are a warrior, and I'm sending you love and strength. It is not easy. And it's also crazy that so many women suffer from endo and PCOS without being diagnosed for so many years. So we just experience this excruciating pain every single month, and nobody has the answers for us. Absolutely devastating. This is why we need to invest in research in women's health and hormones. So the same thing with endo, the exact reasons are still unknown. There are a few theories that make sense. One is retrograde menstruation. So basically your menstrual flow flowing backwards back into the body instead of outside of your body. And this backwards flow can make those endometrial cells to attach into the pelvis and into the organs. And the immune system then fails to clear that out. So they implant and they grow. So immune dysfunction also plays a big role in endo. We know that endo is connected to estrogen, usually estrogen dominance in the body and the ratio of estrogen to progesterone. Excess estrogen fuels the growth of endometriosis and inflammation in the body. So it's super, super important to focus on clearing that excess estrogen from the body with endometriosis. This means supporting your liver because your liver detoxifies and metabolizes through all of your excess hormones and all the toxins in the body. So your liver also helps with inflammation, both which are key to managing endo. That endo growth causes inflammation to happen in the body. And women with endo usually have issues with inflammation and other sensitivities like allergies and asthma. So inflammation is a key driver here too. And we need to target it with anti-inflammatory lifestyle and diet. Super important. Another thing that's key for endo is endocrine disruptors in our environment, in our water, in our food, in our makeup, our skincare, hair care, everywhere. Especially PCBs and certain pesticides have been linked to endo and increasing the risk of endo 70%. I will link this research down below. Some of these toxins are already banned and not used anymore, but the problem is that those toxins linger in the environment, in our soil, in our water, and it still gets into our lives, into our bodies, and causes inflammation and excess estrogen. So limiting exposure to any of those environmental toxins is super important. So what are some key ways for us women to balance our hormones? Now, this is going to work whether you have endo, PCOS, some slight hormonal imbalances, inflammation, what have you that is causing your hormonal issues. All of these are going to help for that. Firstly is balancing your blood sugar with diet. Absolutely crucial and important. Number one, no more coffee on an empty stomach because even black coffee spikes your cortisol levels, your stress hormones, and therefore spikes your blood sugar. Coffee is not real energy. We got to remember that. Coffee is a stimulant drug that acts like adrenaline in the body, activating that stress hormone, cortisol, and it makes us alert and awake and energetic, but it's not real energy. So you're going to have caffeine or coffee only after you have breakfast. That's my number one rule for you. Don't break it. Second rule, you're going to have to eat protein, healthy fats, and fiber at every single meal. That's going to keep your blood sugar stable. You're going to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe one snack a day. That could be eggs with avocado on some seed bread or with some fruit or on top of sweet potato. That's one of my favorite ways to have eggs in the morning is on top of sweet potato. Lunch could be a quinoa salad with chicken or tofu, and dinner could be a beautiful pan-seared salmon with some green beans and brown rice or sweet potato or quinoa or what have you. Blood sugar imbalance and insulin resistance is not only for PCOS, it is a key driver behind many of our hormonal issues. So protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Fiber you only really get from fruits and vegetables, so eat your fruits and veggies. You're also going to cut back on caffeine. If you're like I was a few years ago and drinking 3 cups of coffee a day, you're going to limit that to 1 or 2 cups. Not only are you going to have it only after breakfast, but you're also only going to have it before 12. This is because caffeine can stay in your body for 12 hours and it can impact your sleep even if you don't think that it will, especially if you are suffering from sleep issues or insomnia. Super important to not have caffeine after 12, which can be hard because I know when we're working that 9 to 5, we get that afternoon slump and we need a pick-me-up. Try doing some jumping jacks, try getting your body moving, drinking a big glass of water I promise those will help more than the coffee or the caffeine. And you can also have decaf just to like give your mind and your brain that feeling that you're having coffee or matcha, but you're still protecting your hormones. Two other things that you're going to limit is alcohol, because alcohol is a toxin creating inflammation in the body and putting a lot of burden on our liver. So definitely not good for hormones. Second, refined sugars. You're going to limit them. I'm not saying that you have to completely cut out sugar, but let's go for 80-20 or 90-10 living, meaning 80 to 90% of the time you are eating perfectly, balancing your blood sugar, not having too much caffeine or alcohol, and then 20 to 10% of the time you can have your sweet treat and enjoy life. Of course, we are here to enjoy, not to cut out and eliminate things completely, but it will make a huge difference if you do have refined sugars only after you had protein and healthy fats. And to my point with caffeine, same thing. If you're not a morning eater and you need your morning coffee, even one hard-boiled egg or a couple spoonfuls of chia pudding with some berries and some nuts is going to make a big difference on your cortisol levels and your blood sugar. Third rule, you're going to prioritize your sleep and your stress management. Now, I'm not joking here. Even one night of getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep can disrupt your hormones the next day and worsen insulin sensitivity. It also activates your hunger hormones, so you're gonna eat more. You're probably gonna grab more of those sugary snacks, more caffeine, and that's gonna create another vicious cycle of not taking care of ourselves and our hormones and nourishing our body. So try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. Limit your screen time. What I do in the evenings is that I put my phone in the other room to charge. It never charges with me, and I have a alarm clock that wakes me up in the morning. I also have a red light lamp in my room, and I read a book before I go to sleep, so I'm not watching TV. This is my ideal night. I put screens away and food away at least 1 to 2 hours before going to sleep. And I promise you get much more restful sleep. Keeping your environment dark and cool is also going to help you sleep better. For stress management, I personally love walks in nature, silence in nature. You know, where I'm from in Finland, it's amazing to just be in the silence in nature. I don't really have that much in LA, but hiking is a great thing that I do here. Meditation, breath work, laughing with your friends is amazing for your stress hormones and your nervous system. So whatever stress management works for you, do it. But scrolling and TV does not count. Something that I like to do in the morning before I start working is journal how I want my day to look and how I'm going to respond to stressors. That really helps me keep cool, keep the stress low, and not have a huge reaction to things when they go wrong. If you're constantly in fight or flight mode, your body cannot ovulate and it cannot menstruate. Your body will always prioritize your survival before it prioritizes ovulation and menstruation and baby making. You want to keep your stress levels low to make sure that you get that regular cycle. I also love dancing to reduce stress. Dancing is just so much fun, and you really get a serotonin boost afterwards. Movement is amazing for stress reduction, insulin sensitivity, improving your mood, which are all amazing for hormone balance. I love cycle syncing my exercises. I will talk about cycle syncing in another podcast episode because we don't have time for that right now. But briefly, we have 4 phases in our cycle: menstrual, follicular, ovulatory, and luteal. Basically, that means that every single week we are in a different phase of our cycle and our hormones are rising and falling. And this affects our energy, our mood, our metabolism, our sleep, how we respond to stress, everything. So that's why cycle syncing exercising is super important, because if we are doing HIIT workouts, let's say, in our luteal and in our menstrual phases, that creates too much stress on the body, and it actually creates the opposite effect of balancing hormones and boosting our mood. Our body goes into fight or flight, and it boosts that chronic stress. So in our luteal and our menstrual phases, which is basically the last 2 weeks of our cycle, we should be focusing more on slow strength training, Pilates, yoga, walking, hiking. And in the first 2 weeks of our cycle, this is roughly, which is our ovulatory and follicular phases, that's when our body can really handle stress and we have a lot of energy to burn. So HIIT workouts and intense cardio are amazing in those phases. Consistency is key. So whatever you do, 30 minutes of exercise is amazing every single day, whether it is yoga or walking or HIIT or dance or gym or whatever. Get your body moving. Super, super important for overall health, of course, and hormone balance as well. And it's not a joke that a lot of women athletes who train intensely all of the time have problems with their period or have lost their periods and their cycles completely. I went to a sports high school and I can't even tell you how many girls and young women didn't have their period when we were in high school because we were all training so hard. That has long-term effects. I should probably create an episode also just on how to get your cycle and your period back. But a lot of these things that we talk about here helps as well for that. You want to clean up your environment from those endocrine disruptors that we talked about. Again, those toxins, those chemicals mimic estrogen in the body or block our hormone production. So that is from conventional makeup, conventional skincare, conventional detergent, home care, plastics, all the things. This is why I love and prefer clean makeup, clean products. And honestly, nowadays, it's super, super easy to get good clean makeup and clean products. It's not hard. And honestly, it's not really more expensive. The best way to replace all those products is when you run out of the products that you're using now, then just replace it with a cleaner version of that product. All of my favorites are linked to my Amazon, to my ShopMy, and I have links in my bio to exactly what I use. You, of course, don't have to use the same ones. Some clean makeup options are amazing to find at Sephora as well. They have the Clean at Sephora, which makes sure that those products don't have parabens and phthalates that are the biggest hormone disruptors. Plastic is a big thing. I definitely recommend replacing your plastic cutting boards and plastic containers in your kitchen to glass or stainless steel or wood. We're all consuming a lot of microplastics, which affect our health and our hormones. So plastic is something that you want to say no to and switch out as much as you can. These are some key supplements that basically every woman should take, especially if we're dealing with hormonal imbalances. Of course, it would be best if you could work with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath and get your levels checked. But in general, all of these will help. Magnesium glycinate, absolutely amazing for your thyroid hormones, for your stress levels, helping you with sleep, and also balancing estrogen and progesterone. It can also help with PMS and mood swings, cramps, and migraines. I take magnesium every single night, about 3 to 500 milligrams is great. Or you can soak in an Epsom salt bath before you go to sleep. That is an amazing way to get magnesium in as well. B vitamins are extremely important for your hormone health. Now, especially if you're coming off of birth control, hormonal birth control robs our body off of especially B vitamins. So we definitely want to supplement with a methylated vitamin B complex. This is for everyone. B vitamins help with our energy, our hormone production, helps with depression and anxiety, liver detox, so many things that B vitamins are responsible for. So this is one of the first things I always tell every single woman that you should supplement with. I personally am super sensitive to B vitamins. I cannot do B vitamins in capsules, so I do a liposomal B vitamin from Quicksilver Scientific. I'll link it below. It is super high quality, doesn't make me nauseous, and works amazingly. I've been using it for like 5 years. I don't think I'm ever gonna try another B vitamin ever again. Omega-3 is amazing for inflammation and hormone production. They definitely help with endometriosis and PCOS because they help to lower that inflammation. Also help to support mood and our skin. And most of us are definitely not getting enough omega-3s through our diet, even if we're eating a lot of fatty fish, chia seeds, and flax seeds, we still need to supplement with omega-3s. Inositol is especially important for PCOS, but honestly, anybody with hormonal imbalances who wants to balance their blood sugar inositol is great. Getting the right ratio of inositol of 40:1 of myo-inositol to D-chiro-inositol. My two favorite brands for this is Bond and Perelel. I love the Perelel hormone balance supplement because it also has berberine, so that is especially good for metabolic function and blood sugar balance, especially with PCOS. They help to balance blood sugar, lower androgens, help with a regular cycle, and improve ovulation and fertility. Vitamin D can be super, super important. This depends a little bit on where you live and your vitamin D level. So before supplementing with vitamin D, unless you live in a really, really dark place, I would check your levels, because vitamin D is actually used in men to boost their testosterone levels. So if you have PCOS or hormonal acne, vitamin D can actually boost those androgens and testosterone levels and make it worse. If you have those, test your levels before you're supplemented with vitamin D. If you are deficient, then definitely supplement with it. There are some amazing herbal remedies and adaptogens that can help with hormone balance. I use herbs every single day for my hormones, for my mental health, for my stress. I especially have two favorite herbs for hormone balance, and those are Vitex and Donkey. Vitex especially is amazing for progesterone production. So if you're having a tough luteal phase, you have estrogen dominance in the body, Vitex can help with that. Vitex can help boost your progesterone, and Donkey is amazing for both estrogen and progesterone balance. I love getting both of those in the Organic Olivia Herbal Flow Balance Tincture. Also been taking that since I quit hormonal birth control 4 years ago. Another herbal tincture from Organic Olivia that I love is the liver juice tincture, because it aids our liver in metabolizing hormones, metabolizing toxins, which is great for hormones, great for skin, great for everything. Reishi is one of my favorite functional mushrooms because it is amazing for chronic stress and that fight or flight mode. So if you have chronic stress and you feel like you have a lot of fatigue, you're really fighting those stress levels, start supplementing with reishi. My favorite is the Chill Now from Aversio Wellness. Why I love Aversio Wellness is because they are therapeutic grade. They actually work. They're made in Canada, grown on wood, which is super important. And every single dosage is therapeutic grade, so it actually works. Ashwagandha can be amazing for lowering stress and cortisol as well, and also giving you energy throughout the day. So maybe instead of caffeine, you have some ashwagandha. Evening primrose oil can be amazing, especially if you're suffering from PMS. It can really help to balance hormones in the luteal phase. And NAC is a supplement that is amazing for PCOS, improving insulin, helping with ovulation, great for liver support, and it's a great antioxidant. These are all the supplements that I've taken for years and when I was balancing my hormones. Again, I will link all of my favorites below. I don't know if it seems like a huge list to you, but it's really not that big of a list of supplements that will really help. Once you combine all of the lifestyle habits and the supplements, you are doing so great. Just remember that mind-body connection is super important as well. If you're talking down on yourself, if you're talking down on your body, not understanding your body, fighting with your body, you are going to halt your healing. It is completely normal for negative thoughts to come up, but when those thoughts come up, think about how you would talk to your best friend and if you would say those things to your best friend, because that's how you should be talking to yourself, just like you're talking to your best friend in a loving, compassionate, kind, understanding way, and not blaming and putting yourself down. Give your body some time. It takes about 3 to 6 cycles, so 3 to 6 months for your body to start functioning again and working with those raw materials that you are giving your body and how you're nourishing your body. It takes a little bit of time, so be patient, be kind and loving to yourself. This was a lot of information, and each of these topics could be a podcast episode on its own, but I did want to create this comprehensive kind of toolkit to go over each topic and to really understand how everything is connected. I hope you feel empowered and supported and a little bit more knowledgeable on your body. Let me know any comments, questions, and if you would want me to do a deep dive on any of these subjects alone that we talked about, Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next one.